Welcome back, everybody. This is the NASCAR 1-Up Retro round number 11, and it is at Rockingham Speedway in good old North Carolina. I'm alongside Kevin Carter for today's race, and this track has a very old surface, hasn't been paved in quite a while, and as such, the tires will be screaming for relief every time we come down pit road. What do you think the tire conservation is going to be looking like as we approach a long run here today?
I think it's going to be very important because with how old the track surface is, it completely shreds the tires and it makes it difficult to maintain a pace on a long run.
One story to keep an eye on this weekend is not only is Caden Atkins back with us after his harrowing wreck at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, he's put himself on the pole position for today's race. That's quite a recovery for his team.
Absolutely, that's great to see. Obviously, that was a vicious accident, and to see him back here today in Rockingham on the pole is very pleasing to see.
And as the starting lineup scrolls across your screen now, you can see Atkins is on the pole. Peter Onjak, who's been replacing him for a while, he's back behind the wheel in his own number 70 car. He'll start in 4th position. A lot of key stories to keep an eye on. You see Lane Sanders in his debut race will start 3rd. A couple of drivers making their series debut in this race. Ryan Soper will start 13th today. We've got a few drivers making their series debut. Ben McDonald starting 28th today. And unfortunately, another driver, Jacob McMillan, could not make the field today. We've had our first round of knockout qualifying this season, and as a result, 5 drivers have failed to make the show, and they will be shown at the bottom of the screen. Tough break for those guys, but this just shows what a competitive field we've got here today. And Caden Atkins in the 69 of Blair lead us through 3 and 4. The pace car is making a left-hand turn down pit lane, as Caden Atkins in his racing return will lead us to the green flag shortly. Going into the restart zone now, the green flag is out, and we are racing at Rockingham. And Caden Atkins has gotten a great jump on Blair. He'll take the lead going into turn 1 with Sanders right behind.
Yeah, good start from Sanders as well to immediately jump the 69.
With Atkins leading Sanders down the back straightaway going into turn 3. See some side-by-side action already down back through the field as Gale and looks like Onjak and Arthur Xavier are all side-by-side for 4th place, but it'll be Caden Atkins off of 4. He'll lead lap 1.
Yeah, and we can see here Gale got the move done on Brianna Blair as Caden Atkins continues to run away in the race.
Atkins continues to lead a snarling pack of cars behind them. They're all side-by-side behind him. Sanders may have broken away from the side-by-side, but everyone else is still jostling for position as Atkins starts to pull away to he's got a 1-second lead already as Sanders tries to fend off Gale and Xavier.
It's been an impressive first few laps for the two, as can see here Sanders pulling even further away from Gale as he's fighting with the 95 for position.
That's Xavier in one of his best qualifying efforts of the season, fighting for inside the top 5, as Ricky Freeman Jr. goes underneath the 71. He'll try and take position away, as well as Ryan Soper in his series debut, trying to follow Freeman through for a spot in the top 5.
It's been a good effort so far for these people so far.
And Onjak's actually slipped a little bit. He started up in 4th, but he dropped back to 9th, and Blair started 2nd, and she's all the way back in the 10th position now, and it looks like she'll lose that to Kyle Corbett as he's blasting his way through the field. But it's still early in this race, only 5 laps in, so there's plenty of time to make ground up as Onjak tries to go underneath Herman now for it looks like 7th position.
Yeah, it's not been too great of a start for the 69 as the 2 continues to pull away from that 81 car.
Now keep in mind, these tires will not make it the full distance. We will need some green flag pit stops if we do not have a caution flag. But as far as things are concerned right now, it looks like it's becoming all about Caden Atkins and possibly Lane Sanders if he can make a run at it going into the later stages of this race. But right now, the action continues to be further back in the field as Xavier tries to reel in Stephen Gale for 3rd.
Yeah, the gap to the 81 actually gotten smaller this lap by 0.2 of a second as Lane Sanders trying to pull up to the 2, trying to make moves.
And the 84 of Soper is trying to make a move on Freeman, but it's not going to happen. These two cars are pretty much similarly painted, but they've very much got different agendas behind them. Freeman's trying to make his way up in the points, while Soper's just trying to have a good day in his debut race. Meanwhile, further back, you can see Onjak and Blair teaming up on Kyle Corbett, and you can see Stephen Hunter behind them as well. Hunter's actually had a very good season, despite missing the season opener at Daytona. He's already in the top 10 in points.
It's a pretty good effort for somebody who's only started, well, who hasn't started the entire season like some of the big guys.
He's up in, I believe, 5th in points despite missing Daytona. He's had a very good season, as now you can see the gap starting to close again between Sanders and Atkins. Sanders now down to 0.8 of a second between he and Caden Atkins. A very unique line around Rockingham. You go in low and then you wash up high to try and get the momentum off of 4. But it's a very good line to run if you can manage to hold on to your tires.
Yeah, that line, as you can imagine, really beats up the tires as the gap continues to shrink.
It's down to 3/4 of a second now. Yeah, like I said, it may be the fastest way around, but it'll be a killer on your tires if you keep it up for too long. You might see some people hug the yellow line going around the corner to try and conserve their tires. Others may try and run the high line to try and use as little wheel as possible trying to get in there. But you can see Xavier's gotten past Gale for third, and Freeman's trying to take a look as well. But as you can see, a bunch of different lines being experimented here today. A lot of different lines being run.
It's always good to have multi-groove tracks on the schedule because they make for very entertaining racing. But especially with this track, it can also chew up the tires pretty quickly.
Moving back through the field, you can see Brandon Beal and Justin Hutchinson battling for 11th position, just outside the top 10. They're both having a solid run. Onjak starting to fall back a lot more than I expected him to. He had a very good car in qualifying, but it's just not getting under him in race trim as he's being passed by King, and it looks like Martin as well in the 26.
Yeah, so far not a good effort from him as he drops down the field.
It's still early, though, and there's still a set of pit stops to go, so don't count him out just yet. But he's going to need to get a move on quickly if he's going to hold back this big pack of cars, including the 71, 34, 16 of Porkins, and many others, trying to take the position away from him.
It's good they're going 3 wide here, as it looks like, but they're actually not.
You can see that green and white car back there, 75. He started 39th today, and as things are running right now, he's already cracked the top 15. That is an exceptional run from a team that is doing quite well this season, but started really far back today.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good, especially for how far down he qualified. To make your way up from that much of a deficit is always impressive.
You can see him make that move under Onjak, and as we move back up through the top 10, you can see Soper and Herman fighting for a spot in the top 10. This would be for 6th place, with Blair not far behind. These cars are starting to spread out a little bit, which is good if you want to run save your tires, because running side by side with another car cannot help them, especially if you're racing aggressively trying to get past.
Yeah, or if you're racing aggressively to try and catch up to the leader, as we can see the gap continuing to grow.
And now you can see the lap cars at the back of the pack. They're trying to hang on to the lead lap, including guys like Joshua Michaels we're looking at right here in the 04. He's making his series debut today, as well as Ben McDonald in the 12. They started pretty decently, actually, and both have slipped pretty far down the running order. Tough outings for them in their first debut, but they can't all be Lane Sanders, who's having a stellar run despite running second right now to Caden Atkins. Lane Sanders continuing to get a jump on third place Arthur Xavier, trying to close the gap between himself and Caden Atkins. We're almost a third of the way through. We're probably about a quarter distance now, but Sanders is hanging on to about a 1 second deficit to Caden Atkins, as we see some action at the back of the top 10 between Blair, Hunter, and Corbett, all racing for 8th. Moving back up through the field now, we can see Freeman, Xavier in 3rd and 4th, but all the action so far up front has belonged to Caden Atkins, the leader and pole sitter, and Lane Sanders in his first series start, who got the jump on Blair to take second at the beginning, and he's just trying to reel in Caden Atkins, the veteran who's come back from a horrible crash at Las Vegas to dominate this race. What an impressive run from the two.
Absolutely incredible. You can see absolutely he has lost none of his talent or speed as he continues to pull away from the 81, making the gap bigger and bigger and bigger every single lap.
And you can see Atkins starting to run a little wider line, trying to save his tires a little bit. It's never too early to start trying to save tires, especially if you've got as big a lead as Atkins has. It's about 1.5 seconds. You can conserve a little bit. You don't have to give it 100% every lap right now. As long as you can keep the 81 behind you, which he's more than capable of doing right now, you can just keep on running your line, running your race, and just managing as best you can these tires that are so delicate, as the pace has already dropped off at least a full second since the race started.
Absolutely. If you conserve your tires, then absolutely you'll have better runs as we start to see the laps wind down and runs start getting longer, as the 81 gains like half a second in those short few moments.
That must be Atkins trying to conserve his tires while Sanders is trying to make the aggressive approach, trying to get by. He lost a 10th there, but still, solid effort from the 81 as we see a battle for position between the 84 and the 53 Richard Herman, the St. Petersburg winner, trying to get by, but to no avail right now. He'll slot in behind the 84 in 7th place, with Corbett and Hunter battling for 8th right behind him.
I'd say later on, I think Caden Atkins will might have better pace, especially when our first round of pit stops comes along. I think he's got himself pretty well set up.
You can see now Justin Hutchinson making a move into the top 10, passing the outside pole sitter Blair for that position. Tough run for the 69. Started up front and still running in the top 10, but definitely not the pace that she and her team were expecting. Still, an 11th place run would be solid considering her points position, but she knows she can expect better as we move up through the rest of the field. You can see Herman again trying to take a run at the 84, not going to make it happen, as Atkins continues to make a pleasure cruise out of today's race.
Absolutely incredible scenes. He's still dominating this race so far, and the gap is even increasing, I guess, as he turned his pace up a little bit on that lap.
And Freeman's going to try and make a run on the outside of Arthur Xavier to try and take the 4th spot. Haven't seen that move work all day today, but we might see it work for the first time today. It might cost him 5th place, because here comes Soper and here comes Herman, both trying to take the spot away, and it looks like this move will not work out for Ricky Freeman Jr.
It's been a good debut run for Soper today. Started 13th and has already made his way inside of the top 5 on his first race.
Solid effort, but he's still not the best debut driver of the day, because that is Lane Sanders, who chopped about 0.4 of a second out of Caden Atkins' lead. Now chopped it down another 0.2 of a second. He's only half a second behind now.
Yeah, I think that Atkins is conserving his tires more than he is. I still think that he'll have the pace when it comes time to start making them pit stops.
And speaking of those pit stops, we're about halfway through this tire run, and the pace has fallen off by about 1.5 seconds. You can see the average speed dropping a little bit as these tires keep wearing out. But you can see Soper's gotten past both Gale and Freeman to take the 4th spot away. Good run for these guys who've never made a start in the series before. They're really making a statement today.
Absolutely incredible, as we can see here, Lane Sanders now hounding the back of that 2 car of Caden Atkins.
That gap is gone now. It's down to just 0.3 of a second, and Sanders may be content to just ride there, but knowing Lane Sanders, he's probably going to want to make this pass pretty quickly.
Yeah, if you spend too much time trying to pass, you're going to eat up those tires, and like I said, tires mean a lot for your pace. As we can see now, the pace is dropping as the tires start to wear out more.
Yeah, the average speed's dropping every lap down to 146.1, but We've yet to have a caution flag today, so barring a yellow flag, we should see pit stops coming in about 8 to 10 laps or so. The question is, who will be the first to come down pit road of the top two? Will it be Sanders trying to get the undercut on Atkins, or will Atkins try and predict this and try and outpit Sanders to try and extend his lead?
I would say definitely Sanders would have to pit first. And if he gets the undercut on Atkins, that'll be huge for his race. Because he has the pace. We've seen already that he has the pace to maybe even win this race if he just keeps his tires clean.
Yes, but right now he's actually lost a little bit of ground, but that might just be because he's trying to save a little bit. But now you can see from our looking at the back of Caden Atkins' car, you can see how close Lane Sanders is, not giving an inch in the K&N Ford, and he's really making a run at it. Drifts up high a little bit though, loses a bit of time, but as long as he can stay within sight of Caden Atkins, he'll be fine once the pit stops roll around.
I think actually what made him drift high was he was either doing that deliberately to try and save, or he was losing a bit of tire grip and becoming loose off the corner.
Well, he definitely slid up, and that cost him a little bit. He's now down back to 0.3 of a second behind, but this is still a battle for the lead worth keeping an eye on, as Atkins has dominated this race. He's led every lap so far, but Lane Sanders is looking to change that in a hurry as pit stops are quickly approaching.
It's been an incredible debut effort for that 81 car. He's already looking at a possible win if he can get close enough and try and make that pass.
Which could be coming any time now as pit stops are looming ever closer. Could Sanders get the undercut off on Atkins and take the lead away, or will Atkins see it coming? Or if they pit together, who will have the faster crew to get him out ahead of the other?
That's actually a tough question. I'm not really sure about that one. However, if things end up as they are now, with the two in front, it could be perhaps trickier for that 81, as you can see him slowing down a bit more, losing about 0.3 of a second on that lap.
Yeah, and as you can see on our scoring pylon, they've left third place Xavier way in the dust. They're 6.5 seconds clear of the 95 Toyota, but as you can see, Xavier's crossing the line now. Well, Sanders crossed the line then, and Xavier all the way back, just now crossed the line. It's quite a bit of a gap back from between second and third. It's becoming a two-man race here from here on out.
Yeah, it actually looks like he's closing up, as the gap from the 95 to the 2 is staying the same, but the gap from the 2 to 81 is getting bigger.
Sanders
thus meaning that.
And as you say that, Sanders just gained 0.3 of a second back on Atkins. As we're getting close, these tires have to be on their last threads. You can see some cording on a few of these tires, so expect pit stops within the next 2 to 3, maybe 4 laps, as Caden Atkins continues to power off the corner, and he will lead his 40th lap of the day.
It's been an impressive return for the 2 car, coming back from a massive accident, and so far he is dominating, led every single lap so far. Will he stay in front after the pit stop cycles? That's
between him and Lane Sanders to decide as they come off of 4. Atkins will lead at the halfway point of this race. We've crossed that already, so Atkins will lock up the bonus point for leading the most laps today, with at least 41 laps led today. No one else can get better than that. But the one that pays out the big bucks is the final lap, and we'll see later if Atkins can hang on to lead that one, which is the most important lap to lead of the race, as he comes off the corner, and he'll continue to dominate this race.
Those tires must be running on their belts by now. Jesus, they've been going for so long that I don't know, they must have to come down within the next, I'd say 5 laps probably.
They should be coming in any lap now. As you can see, Hunter moving underneath Hutchinson. That's for 8th place. As you can see him start to bottle up from 8th on back. These slow cars trying to navigate each other as they go through 3 and 4 side by side almost in that battle. And Blair is going to try and stick a nose under Hutchinson to try and take 9th place back as we start lap number 44. And Blair is going to try, with help from Brandon Beal, to try and get by Justin Hutchinson, but it looks like he'll have the advantage off the high side, and he'll retain the position going into 3.
Hasn't really been a stellar run for that 69 car so far, starting from 2nd and losing about 7 positions as cars start to peel off into the pit lane on lap 45.
That's against Stephen Gale in the 52, Hunter in the 51, Corbett, Ace, McKinney and Fitzwater lead this pack of cars down pit road. As you can see in the back of your screen, top of your screen, the leaders are on pit road. Atkins and Sanders came in together, so we'll have to take a look at and see which crew can beat the other coming off of pit road. We'll go to our pit lane camera to show you both cars pitting together, and we'll watch the race off pit road closely because this could dictate the outcome of this race.
It's going to be important as to whoever's crew is faster, because right now you're just trying to gain track position during this point in the race on pit road.
As you can see, Atkins putting left side tires on. Sanders is probably going to finish first. He'll race out of the pits, but it looks like Atkins will get the jump on him. But they exit the pits to exactly the way they came in, right together. And this was actually a big win for Lane Sanders because now, with fresh tires, he's still right on the tire tracks of Caden Atkins. As you can see, Duke Ansack has taken over the lead of this race. He is yet to pit, as he'll do this time by as the two main competitors in this race duke it out, Atkins and Sanders. So we'll wait for the pit stops to cycle out. So it looks like Ansack, Hutchinson, and Jones are your leaders right now. But that will change soon as Atkins and Sanders should cycle back out to the lead by lap 50.
Yeah, that was actually a really, really good stop from Lane Sanders. As you can see here, he's a lot closer to Atkins than where he was before the pit stops.
And with fresh tires, now he can launch an all-out attack on Caden Atkins. As you can see, Cal Farrell and Joshua Michaels up front, the couple of lap cars. That could play a factor as well as Atkins and Sanders try to maneuver around them. They could set up picks for one another as they try and either take the position in Sanders' case or hold them back if you're Atkins.
Yeah, getting around this lap traffic will be important as to whichever car can get in front of one another, as it looks like Atkins is going to hold his position for now.
And as they pass the lap car of Joshua Michaels, making his series debut in the 04 Crunchyroll Dodge, our focus now is back on this battle for the lead, which is continuing to be a one-on-one showdown between the returning Caden Atkins and the debuting Lane Sanders.
It's been impressive outings for these two so far, as they have completely pulled away from the rest of the field and are continuing to lead one another as the gap getting a little bit bigger on that lap, but still, regardless, an amazing battle as they go through more lap traffic.
Yep, you can see Cal Farrell in the 96 and Jeff Bolton in the 38. Bolton gives them the low line, which is smart from Bolton to try and give the leaders room. However, they're not going to clear him, and Bolton manages to hang on to the lead lap for now. He's desperately hoping that a caution flag will come out. We haven't had one yet this race, but it's a very real possibility with these slower cars getting in the way of the leaders. We could have one, and that would change the outcome of this race by a long shot.
Yeah, a caution right now could actually see possibly one of the other people from the top 5 even having a chance at winning the race. Because right now, we've gone green the entire race. These two are completely dominating.
And of course, if a caution were to come out, what would, if you're, say, Brandon Beal in 8th, Ricky Freeman Jr. in 9th, if you're Richard Herman in 10th, why not come down to get a few laps fresher tires, see if you can't get a run on the cars that stay out under the caution and try and get better track position with fresh tires, because we know we're not going to run out.
Yeah, fresh tires would be more of an advantage compared to these guys, especially in the later stages of the race when the leader's tires start to fall off a little bit.
So if a caution were to come out at, say, lap 68, I'd say everybody comes in. But if a caution were to come out, say, like at lap 58, I'm not so sure everybody would come in, because track position is important, but man, are those fresh tires worth a lot at Rockingham. As you can see, Sanders trying to make a move at Atkins, but failed just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if a caution were to come out now, it might be actually worth it to stay out. As you can see here, the gap getting smaller as the 81 is closing up to the 2.
Yes, it's getting very close, and you can see, as we're checking our fastest lap at a race update, it looks like John Martin's holding that after the pit stops. He'll get a bonus point for that if he can hang on and secure that. But going back to the race lead, it is Atkins leading Sanders by about 0.2 of a second, and no one else is coming close, because Arthur Xavier and Stephen Gale are about 5 seconds behind, and they're not gaining any time. It looks like it's going to be a battle between these two and these two only for the race win.
He has a bit of a look, but Caden Atkins shuts the doors. No, he slides up, and they are now side by side as
Going for the lead. Going for the lead, and Sanders has gotten by. We got a new leader at this race. We got a new leader at this race, and it's the 81 of Lane Sanders. Now what does Caden Atkins do? Now, he's been in the role of chaser before in this race, so now he's got to make some sharp decisions to try and keep up with Lane Sanders, especially with this lap traffic getting in the way.
Yeah, maybe if they catch up to those lap traffic cars in front, he can use them to his advantages. Maybe the 81 gets stuck a little bit. He can gain a little bit of time on the track to try and pass him.
However, it looks like Sanders is pulling away. I have a feeling that Sanders has probably had the faster car of the two all race long, and now that he's out in clean air, so to speak, not with all that lap traffic ahead of him, but as far as the lead is concerned, having that clean air will help a lot, especially if you've got as fast a car as Sanders has.
Yeah, Atkins might be having a little bit of pace troubles as the 04 is trying to get his lap back, but he's going to maintain that position right now. But the gap is increasing from Atkins to Sanders.
By a large margin, I may add, because as Sanders crosses the line, Atkins will cross a full second behind Lane Sanders. This is a big development. If Lane Sanders can hold on for the win in his first start, that would be quite a story. Remember back at Chicagoland, Jacob Johnson almost had the race won in his first start. He was leading on the final lap, but after a bonsai move by Miles Mashburn at the very end of the race, he was saddled with a second-place finish. Lane Sanders is hoping that does not happen to him today.
Yeah, hopefully we don't see history repeat itself, although that, let's be real, that would be really entertaining as he gets caught up in some lap traffic going side by side.
It's the Bristol winner of Christian and the 38 of Bolton he's trying to get around. But Atkins is navigating the traffic. Actually, Michaels has gotten past Atkins. He might have some issues with pace. He's not quite there hanging on to the lead pack. But Sanders is getting around. Actually, Michaels is starting to close in on Sanders now to try and unlap himself. So if he can't get, if Sanders can't get around Bolton, he's got to worry about Joshua Michaels trying to get past him.
It is actually a strange development. As you can see now, he gets past Bolton. This is actually a strange development. If Michaels can get past him and unlap himself, that's kind of strange because Michaels started from 16th and he's already a lap down now in last place.
He was one of those cars that had issues in the first run of this race, making his way up through the field. Ben McDonald was the other, but he's managed to stay on the lead lap for now. As now Sanders is clear of Bolton and Michaels, and he's going to try and chase after Christian in the 8, who's his next victim of lap traffic. But Atkins is still stuck behind Michaels. He can't seem to get around. I'm hoping that there's not something wrong with that red number 2, because if there is, that would spell out a clear victory for Lane Sanders here today.
Yeah, I hope he can catch up, because it's better for a race if there's 2 competitors. The gap has shrunk just a little bit, but right now it's the Lane Sanders show.
Yeah, the gap's also shrinking from 3rd place. Arthur Xavier is now down to 4.6 seconds, although he's going to have to gain a lot more time than that if he's going to have a chance, especially trying to navigate the same lap cars that Sanders and Atkins have had to deal with. I'm starting to believe that unless Atkins can get a move on, I think this is Lane Sanders' race to lose.
Or if a caution comes out, Atkins comes down, and we could see possibly a challenge. Even if the 81 comes down, that would still be great if they got bunched up. We could even see a few more contenders, such as the 95 you mentioned earlier.
Yes, and if those 2 come in, what if the opposite comes true? If, say, Herman or Freeman stay on the racetrack, that would put them up front, but with not as great tires as Lane Sanders or Caden Atkins, as we approach 10 laps to go now in this race. Going through turns 1 and 2, and into 3 comes Lane Sanders. He's going to try and get a run on Christian here. He's going to probably put the lap on him pretty easily, as the speed difference is quite high, and he does clear the 8. Coming into single-digit laps left in this race, as Sanders is now a 1.5 second lead over Caden Atkins. This is starting to look like an open and shut case for Lane Sanders to get his first career win and his first career start.
Yeah, that would be absolutely fantastic if he gets a win in his debut. He's cutting his way through the field, and he's completely leaving the 2 in the dust.
And next up is Sam Donato and Ryan Caggiano, who are battling side by side to try and stay ahead of Lane Sanders. I don't know if Sanders actually needs to pass these cars, if he can just maintain his gap, because he's got 3 cars between himself and Atkins. That might be enough to hold on to a solid lead, and maybe even the race win as the laps dwindle down in this race.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for Atkins to get by those cars and try and make a challenge to Lane Sanders' lead as he's continuing to pull away.
As you can see, McDonald swing wide there. He loses a spot to Donato, and as Caggiano gets lapped, now it's McDonald that has to worry about Lane Sanders. Both drivers in their series debut, but man, what a difference in their days so far. McDonald almost about to go a lap down, no fault of his own, just a rough spot on the pit stops. But Lane Sanders has had quite a dominant day. Runs second to Caden Atkins all day long, finally makes the pass, and now we're approaching 5 laps to go. He can see the checkered flag now.
Yeah, it's been, as soon as he passed Atkins, there was really no challenge at all. Quite an unfortunate race for McDonald, and so for Atkins as well, after getting passed, because he hasn't had the pace to keep up with the 81, so to speak.
And as the 81 tries to lap the 12, I don't know if he might be able to clear McDonald coming off a 2, and he will. So now there is 5 lap cars in between himself and Caden Atkins as the laps continue to wind down. Keep in mind, these tires have been on these cars since about 30 laps ago. We're seeing the pace start to drop off again as Caggiano unlaps himself.
Yeah, the tires probably are on strings already, but it's definitely the cards are stacked against Atkins, but the 81 losing a bit of pace off of 1 and 2.
As Christian unlaps himself too, it might be the tires as Bolton and McDonald try and make a run as well. That gap is starting to close. He's only got 3 laps left to hang on. Can he do it with this horde of lap cars right behind him?
Yeah, Atkins has closed up with the lap cars as well. Could we see maybe a last lap challenge on for the lead?
As Sanders continues to try and hold off Ben McDonald. McDonald's going to try and unlap himself. He only has 2 more laps to try and do it. Can Lane Sanders hang on from a hard-charging Caden Atkins to try and get his first career win in just his very first ever start? No one's ever done that before, with the exception of Bobo Jones at Daytona. That was everybody's first career start. But this would be a true upset if Lane Sanders can hang on. He's coming to the white flag this time.
That would make for an amazing story, as Atkins has fallen even further back, as he has just about 24 seconds to try and make the pass there.
And the white flag is out. Lane Sanders has started his final lap, making his debut race as he goes down the back straightaway. Atkins nowhere to be seen, and Lane Sanders has had a phenomenal day so far, and he's going to cap it off in style. Coming off turns 3 and 4 for the final time, and it's Lane Sanders going to victory lane at Rockingham for the first time.
Amazing, amazing win for Lane Sanders. I'm sure he, his family, and his crew will be extremely happy with that result.
An outstanding run by Lane Sanders, and Caden Atkins, after recovering from that injury, still a very solid effort to finish second in this race, lead the most laps from pole, and a second place finish won't hurt him one bit at all. As you can see the rest of the race results, Arthur Xavier has I believe ties a career best of 3rd, Stephen Gill 4th, Ryan Soper had a good debut race too, finishing in the top 5. Stephen Hunter will finish 6th, Richard Herman in 7th, Kyle Corbett, Brandon Beal, and Ricky Freeman Jr. will round out your top 10 here today. What a race from Rockingham. We had it all. We had pit strategy, we had close racing for the lead, but in the end, Lane Sanders showed he had the car to beat, and he took it to victory lane.